Okay, so let's start with the first one here. Print all the numbers between -10 and 19. So before we actually start writing code, we need to make our files. So I have a simple HTML file, and I need to create a script to connect. So let's save our script. Let's call it loops.js. Save that, and then I'll add an alert because I always want to make sure they're connected. Go back to while loops.html, and then just link to that script, which was loops.js. So now if we go and open that up, we should get our nice alert. Great. So let's tackle the first one. Print all numbers between -10 and 19. So we're going to start with a while loop. We're going to start with a variable var, let's say counter. Starts at -10. Then we'll just have a while loop where we're checking while counter is less than 20. Console.log counter, and then we'll add one to counter, just like that. So we start at -10, we print it out, we add one while counter is less than 20. We could also refactor this to be while it's less than or equal to 19. Either one works. I'm going to do this one just for variety's sake. So save, and let's go add a console.log up top. Just to make it clear, we're printing all numbers between -10 and 19. Save and run this. So we'll refresh the page. Don't see anything because it's all in the console. And you can see we get all numbers between -10 and 19. Make sure it includes 19, -10. Great. So the next challenge is to print out all even numbers between 10 and 40. So I'm just going to copy this and modify it just a little bit. So printing all even numbers between 10 and 40. Save. So we'll start with our counter, just equal to 10. While counter is less than 41, or less than or equal to 40. Let's do it this way. We're going to print it out only if it's even. So there's a few ways to do this. The first one is that we always print it out, but we count by twos. So this means that we start at 10, then we print 10 out, then we add 2, and then we're at 12. So then we print out 12, and then we add 2. So that's one way of doing it, just to make sure that works. Let's refresh, open the console, and you can see printing all evens between 10 and 40, and that works fine. So there's another way that we could have written this, and I'll just copy this to show you. We could write it this way. So we loop through for every number, so we don't count by twos. And then we're going to have an if statement in here to check if a number is even. And that looks like if counter mod 2 is 0. So that's how you tell if a number is even. If it's evenly divisible by 2, then we'll print it out, and then we'll just add 1. So this way is shorter and it's a little more efficient because this loop is only going to run half as many times as this one because we're counting by twos. So we never run this loop for the odd numbers versus this one down here. If we start with 10, if counter mod 2 is 0, it is, so we'll console.log 10, we add 1, so now we do it for 11. So this code is evaluated, is 11 divisible by 2? And it's not, so this isn't printed out, but the code in the loop is still run every single time. So there is one advantage of this setup here, which is it will always print out the even numbers no matter what number we start at. Versus this one, if we started at 11, it's always going to just add 2 to that base number. So we'll have 11, 13, 15, which aren't even. But this one is actually checking if they are even. So I'm going to comment that out for now. And let's go with just this short version, which prints out the even numbers between 10 and 40, as we see here. So next up, we have print all odd numbers between 300 and 333. So again, it's very, very similar to this. I'm just going to copy all of this again and change this. So printing all odd numbers between 300 and 333. And then we're going to start with counter at 300. So this one won't work because we're starting at 300. If we add 2, that will be 302, and that will count by evens. So I'm going to get rid of it. And let's use the slightly longer way. So to check if something is odd, we want to make sure that it's not divisible by 2. So that looks like if counter mod 2 is not equal to 0, then we'll print out counter. And the other thing we need to change is this loop is going to start at 300, and we're checking if it's less than 40. So right now this code won't even run. So we want to make this 333. So let's save and refresh. And you can see we get all the odd numbers, 301 all the way to 333. So the last one here is to print all numbers divisible by 5 and 3 that are between 5 and 50. So going to copy our setup one more time. So this time I'm going to console.log, printing all numbers divisible by 5 and 3 between 5 and 50. So to do that, we're going to start with our counter at 5, and it's going to go until 50. And our logic here is not checking if it's not divisible by 2, which is what we have here. What we want to do is check if it is divisible by 5 and divisible by 3. So that's going to look like counter mod 5 equals 0 and counter mod 3 equals 0. And that's it. So both of these need to be true, divisible by 5 evenly and 3, in order for us to print it out. So that's all we need to do. Let's go ahead and refresh our browser. And you can see we get all numbers that are divisible both by 5 and 3 that are between 5 and 50. And there's only 3 of them. All right, so that's it for this while loops problem set.